Good day everyone, welcome to the Contemporary World Discussion. Let us talk about our assigned topic, the global migration. But before that, here is our learning objectives for today's discussion. At the end of this report, students should able to define what is global migration, identify and explain the factors why people migrate, describe different categories of international migrants, and to analyze the impact of global migrations to the origin and host country. Now, let's continue to the discussions. So, what is global migration? Global migration is the movement of people across international borders, either voluntarily or involuntarily. Pag sinabing global migration, ito yung paglipat ng isang tao o grupo sa ibang bansa para manirahan doon or maghanap buhay. Kadalasan yung mga tao na lumilipat sa ibang bansa ay mga taong galing sa developing countries tulad ng Pilipinas, patungong developed countries like Europe, US, or Canada. Ito yung mga bansa na advanced na pati sa mga technology at sa iba pang bagay na may magagandang oportunidad na gantay para sa mga taong gustong pumunta doon para magtrabaho or mag-aral. Ito yung mga halimbawa ng voluntary migration. While involuntary migration naman ay yung napilitan lamang na manirahan doon yung mga tao dahil nagkaroon ng gera or ba sa kanilang bansa. Sila yung mga taong tinatawag na refugees and asylum seekers. Next, we will talk about the two factors of why people choose to migrate. The push and the pull factors. First is the push factors. Push factors are the reasons that make someone decide to move. This is their own experience of life in one place, which gives them the good reasons to leave it. Often, push factors are negative things that makes people leave their country. Next is the pull factors. Pull factors in migration, this is the preferences or desires that cause people to migrate to another country. Ito yung mga dahilan or yung mga positive factors kaya pinipili ng mga tao na lumipat ng ibang bansa. Katulad sa mga OFW na mas ginustong maghanap buhay abroad dahil malaki yung sahod at matitiyak nila na matutustusan nila yung mga pangailangan ng kanilang pamilya na naiwan sa Pilipinas. Here are some example of push and pull factors why people move or why people migrate. First is unemployment. Wala o kulang ang opportunities sa trabaho sa isang lugar. Kaya maraming mga Pilipino ang umaalis dahil kulang ang trabaho sa lugar na kanilang tinitirahan. While in pull factor naman, mas maraming opportunities sa ibang bansa katulad na lamang ng mga OFW sa Middle East. Pumunta sila doon dahil may trabaho sa construction or domestic work. Next is lack of service. Meron kasi mga lugar na walang paaralan, ospital or kuryente. Kaya napipilitan yung mga tao na pumunta sa lugar na mayroong mga pasilidad. And yung pull factors naman nito or yung mga factor na humihila sa kanila patungo sa mas maayos na lugar ay mas maganda yung serbisyo, kumpleto sa paaralan at iba pang pasilidad. Next is poor safety and security. Mataas yung crime rate or peligro sa lugar na kanilang tinitiran. Kaya pinipili nilang lumikas at manirahan sa ibang lugar o bansa. The pull factors naman nito ay nakikita nila sa ibang bansa o lugar na walang gulo o mababa yung crime rate at sa tingin nila ligtas sila doon kung doon sila maninirahan. Next is crop failure. Ito yung isa sa mga dahilan kaya mas pinipili ng mga magsasaka na magtrabaho na lamang sa syudad dahil hindi maganda yung kanilang inaani. Lugi pa tuwing anihan, tama na lamang yun pambayad ng mga utang-utang sa mga abuno na ginamit nila. Minsan naman lumilipat sila dahil nakita nila sa ibang lugar na mas mataba yung lupa at matitiyak nila na makakabawi sila sa kanilang pagkalugi kung doon sila maninirahan. Next factors is draft or tagtuyot. Isa itong malaking factor dahil kung walang ulan, hindi makakapag-ani ng matino yung mga magsasaka. Kaya minsan yung mga magsasaka na lumilipat na lamang din sa syudad para magtrabaho sa construction or iba pang trabaho na sa tingin nila qualified sila or mapipili sila. Next is poverty. Walang sapat na kita kaya naghihirap yung mga tao. Kaya umaalis at abroad katulad ng mga OFW natin. And next is war or gera, nagkagera sa kanilang lugar. Marami yung mga asylum seekers ang pumapasok sa bansa natin dahil nagkagera sa kanilang lugar. Ito na yung mga tinatawag na refugees. Next, we'll talk about the two basic types of migration: the internal migration and international migration. First, internal migration. It refers to the people moving from one area to another within one country. Pag sinabing internal migration, ito yung paglipat ng isang tao sa isang bansa or sa sariling bansa. Halimbawa nito yung mga taga-probinsya na lumipat sa Manila or urban places para doon mag-aral or magtrabaho. Second is international migration. It refers to the people cruising across borders of one country to another. Ito na yung paglipat ng mga tao sa labas ng bansa para maghanap ng trabaho, mag-aral, or mag-travel lang for vacation. Here is the two forms of international migration: the immigration and immigration. First is immigration. Immigration is the movement or entrance of people into a country with the aim of living there permanently. So, it is international movement ng isang tao o grupo to another destination country to settle as permanently residents doon. Second is immigration. Immigration is the process by which people leave a country to settle or live there permanently to another country. In simple words, pag sinabing immigration, ito yung pagpasok ng tao sa isang group, sa isang bansa. While immigration naman, ito yung paglabas ng tao patong ibang bansa. Lagi lang ang tatandaan, pag sinabing immigration ay pagpasok or entering, while emigration is paglabas or leaving.
Categories of international migrants. So when we hear the word migrant, what comes to mind or to your mind? Maybe someone who left their country to find work, or someone escaping a war, or maybe just flying to a new place with a suitcase in a dream. The truth is, people move across borders for lots of different reasons. Some by choice, other by force. Today, we're going to break down the four main categories of international migrants. These are temporary labor migrants, second, irregular migrants, third, refugees, fifth, asylum seekers. Let's explore each one in detail. So first is temporary labor migrants.
Temporary labor migrants. These refer to men and women who migrate for a limited period in order to take up employment and send money home.
Imagine this, your parents don't earn enough money at home, but there's a job waiting in another country that pays triple the salary. It's far away and you'll be gone for a year or two, or more than 2 years. But it's worth it. You take the chance, sign a contract, and fly out. And that's what temporary labor migrants do. They're people who leave the country to work abroad for a limited period of time, usually 1 to 2 years. After that, they're supposed to come back home. These migrants usually have legal contracts and visas, meaning their stay is allowed by the government. This is the common jobs they get. So first is, the common is construction workers in the Middle East. Second, nurses in the UK or Saudi Arabia or Canada. Third, domestic helpers. Also known as kasambahay in Hong Kong or Singapore. Fourth, seasonal farm workers in Europe or the US. So what do they leave? To get high pay abroad? Second, no job opportunities at home. Third, want to provide a better life for their family. Fourth, sometimes it's the only way out of poverty. But it's not always easy. Even though they're legal, many temporary workers face working conditions like long hours and even abuse. Some employees don't treat them fairly. Others hold their passport or don't pay salaries on time. Homesickness is also a big issue. Imagine being away from your kids for years just to send money home. There's a fun fact about this. The Philippines is one of the biggest sources of temporary labor migrants in the world. That's why we often hear about OFWs, overseas Filipino workers. But the truth is that's the sad reality. Second, irregular migrants, also called undocumented or illegal migrants. One's a bit more sensitive. These are people who move to another country without legal permission, meaning the government of that meaning the government meaning the government of the government of that country did not approve their stay. So how do they end up irregular? There are few ways. They enter the country without a visa, like sneaking across a border. They came with a visa but stayed longer than allowed. This is called overstaying. They use fake documents or enter the country for different reasons, like as a tourist but then started working. Why do people risk it? They desperate they desperate to escape poverty, can find jobs in their home country, want to help their families, think life abroad will be better. Sometimes it's cheaper or faster to enter illegal than to go through a long legal process. What are the risks? Life as a regular migrant is very hard. You can get a legal job, so you might work in secret or be underpaid. You live in fear of being caught. You live in fear of being caught and deported. No access to healthcare, education, or legal rights. You might get scammed, abused, or forced into dangerous work. But even with all the risk, many people still take the chance because they believe anything is better than the life left behind. Important reminder: being a regular migrant doesn't make this important reminder. Being an irregular migrant doesn't make someone a criminal or a bad person. Most of the time, they're just people trying to survive, and they deserve compassion too. Third, refugees. Now, this is a different from a labor or job migration. Refugees are people who flee their home country because it was no longer safe to stay. They didn't leave just to find a better job, they left because of war, violence, and persecution, meaning their lives were in danger. The reasons someone may become a refugee, like experiencing war, like Syria or Ukraine, or ethnic conflict like the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar, or the experiencing religious or political persecution like activists being hunted by dictators, or genocide or mass violence, or the experiencing natural disaster. So, okay. Refugees often live in a hurry, with nothing but a small bag, their kids, and hope. They walk across borders, ride on safe boats, or hide in trucks, all to get to safety. How are they protected? There are international laws like the 1951 Refugee Convention that say country must protect refugees. Once a person is recognized as a refugee, they have to stay. They have the right to stay. They can't be sent back to a dangerous place. They may get help with housing, food, and education. It's not glamorous life. Most refugees live in camps or poor neighborhoods, waiting years for a chance to rebuild their lives. But at least they're alive and safe, which is better than being caught in a war. Example, billions of Ukrainians fled to Europe when war broke out of Russia. They didn't want to leave their homes, but they had no choice but to be a refugee. Fourth, asylum seekers. Here's where things get a bit tricky. Asylum seekers are people who ask for protection in another country because they say it's too dangerous to go back home. But they are still waiting for approval. Basically, they are saying, please let me stay here. If I go home, I might be killed or arrested or harmed. But the government of the new country hasn't decided whether to accept or reject them. So what happens during the process? They file an application for asylum. They explain their situation, why they are afraid to go home. The government investigates and decides whether to approve or deny the request. If approved, they become refugees and are protected. If denied, they might be deported. So, why is it hard to be asylum seeker? It takes months or years for decisions. They can't work legally while waiting. Some live in detention centers or poor housing. They don't know what the future looks like. There's still many people try because the other option is to going back home. Could mean death or imprisonment. So this is the real life example. A journalist from a dictatorship country escapes to another country after being threatened for exposing government corruption. So he applies for asylum and waits to see if he'll be accepted or sent back. So my final thoughts, migrants aren't just numbers or news stories. They're real people with hopes, fears, and families. Whether they live to earn punctually, to escape danger, or because they had no choice. Every migrant has a story. Let's remember, again, temporary labor migrants, they work abroad legally for a short time. Irregular migrants stay or enter illegally, often for survival. Refugees flee from a war or danger, protected by law. Asylum seekers ask for protection and wait for a decision.
Have a good day, everyone. So now we're going to talk about the positive and negative impact of migrations on host country and origin country. So kapag sinabi nating host country, ito po yung bansang pinaglipatan ng isang pamilya, tao, or like for example yung mga OFW natin. For example, from Philippines to Saudi Arabia. Itong Saudi Arabia na to, ito yung bansang pinaglipatan ng OFW, guys. And kapag sinabi naman nating origin country, ito naman po yung bansang pinagmula ng isang pamilya or ng isang tao, or like for example example yung mga OFW natin guys, like from Philippines. So ito yung Philippines, ito yung bansang pinagmulan guys. At ngayon pumunta naman po tayo sa positive impact of migrations on host country. So first one po is boosting economic growth through increased labor supply, filing skill gaps, and fostering innovation. So dahil nga nadadagdagan ng population dito sa bansang pinaglipatan ng isang tao, kaya't nagkakaroon ng dagdag na bilang ng mga labor. And basta nagkakaroon ng mga skilled workers. Next one po is the pension gap can be filled by the contributions of new young workers and they also pay taxes. So dahil naninira na sila sa ibang bansa is nagkakaroon sila ng mga taxes na pinapakinabangan ng gobyerno. Next one naman po is contributing to cultural diversity and potentially easing pressures on services for an aging population. So dito po is may example natin yung ibang bansa na merong mga aging population or mas maraming matatandang population sa bansa nila. So dahil nga sa mga migration natin is nagkakaroon sila ng mga bagong residents. Kaya't masasabi kong malaki ang contributions ng migration sa aging population ng isang bansa. At ngayon dito naman po tayo sa negative impact of migrations on host country. First one is strain on resources and infrastructure. So dahil nga dumadami ang population ng isang bansa, dahil sa migration is nagkakaroon din ito ng negative impact. Dahil sa pagdagdag ng migrations or population sa isang bansa is nagiging pasanin na sila sa mga resources and infrastructure. Kumbaga, nagiging pasanin sila ng gobyerno pagdating sa resources na binibigay sa mga citizens ng isang bansa. Next sa ating negative impact is yung potential competition for job leading to lower wages. So dito naman po kapag marami ng migrants or workers sa isang bansa is nagkakaroon na ng competition sa mga trabaho at naglilid dito sa mababang sahod. Next is increased social tensions or cultural clashes. And the next one is migrants can put a strain on public services like healthcare, education, and housing, potentially leading to overcrowding and shortages. So dito naman po is yung mga pumapasok na migrants sa isang bansa is parang nakikihati sila sa mga sources na galing sa gobyerno. Mostly yung mga opportunities like opportunities sa education or sa housing. Dahil sa pagiging overcrowd, nagkukulang yung mga sources from government. And let's go for the positive impact on origin country. First one is reducing unemployment. For example, dito sa Pilipinas is maraming unemployed kaya't nagkakaroon sila ng opportunity na lumipat sa ibang bansa para i-grab yung trabaho. Dahil doon is nababawasan yung mga unemployed sa bansa. Next one for our positive impact on the origin country is lessening pressure on resources and services. So dito po is kukonti yung demand from the government about sa resources and services. Dahil nga sa maraming lumilipat sa ibang bansa. And the last one for our positive impact is boosting the economy through remittances and the return of migrants with new skills and knowledge. So yung mga OFW natin guys is malaki talaga yung impact niya sa government natin or sa economic growth ng Pilipinas. Dahil sa mga OFW natin is malaking nare-remit nilang pera na pinapadala sa Pilipinas. At ito po ay nagagastos around the Philippines and yung mga taxes na galing sa pinambili nito ay napupunta sa government kaya nagkakaroon ng economic growth. And for our negative impact on origin country, first is economic hardship. So dito po is nakakaranas ang bansang pinagmulan ng isang taong nag-migrate sa ibang bansa. Ito naman po yung difficulties and individuals or families na nakakaranas ng financial challenges. Next one po is brain drain. So dito po is nagli-lead ng stress, depressed, yung mga mahal sa buhay na naiwan sa bansa at yung taong nag-migrate sa ibang bansa. Next one sa ating negative impact is social disruption. So dito po is nagkakaroon ng struggle sa relationships and sa individual well-being. And the last for our negative impact on origin country is separation of families, potentially leading to a decline in economic development and social stability. So ang pagiging migrants is nagdudulot din ng mga challenges sa buhay. Lalo na sa mga mahal sa buhay kapag umalis sila at pupunta sa ibang bansa. Magkakaroon sila ng adjustment sa araw-araw na pamumuhay nila na wala sa tabi nila ang kanilang mahal sa buhay. Nagkakaroon ng struggle and difficulties sa family. And this is the end of our presentations about global migrations. I hope you learned a lot.